Are you seeing me very
All
well?
right, so you're welcome back into the studio, and we are live again for this session on how to raise boys who matter. How to raise boys who matter. And we have right in the studio with us Akinrope Akinola. All right, I'm going to share with you a bit about Akinrope, but before I do that, I'm going to share it his profile. Then I will be sharing a personal encounter, with me, with this very amazing speaker that we have today. So you're welcome here again. This is session number 3 at the TIP annual conference, and we are live streaming live at this conference for the third session um, that says how to raise boys who matter. Okay, so if you're just joining us, you can just say hi in the comment section and we're live. All right, so we have Akinrope Akinola right in the studio. So I'm going to read a bit about him. Mr. Akinrope Akinola is a passionate catalyst for change who has the mandate to increase the quality of parenting. All right, and the methodology of nurturing African children as well as families into greatness while maximizing their full potentials. He's an accounting graduate, so he's the accounting man, and he has a short stint in the banking industry from 2001 to 2005. We have a lot in common, right? We've just spent a few days right in the banking industry before doing this. And then later he started a private business which majors really in financial brokerage. He has been involved in youth counseling before he was called into parenting ministry in 2011. He's a member of the Nigerian Institute of Management Chartered, Institute of Management Chartered, or NIM. Akinrope Akinola has practicing certificates in NLP, public speaking, business consulting, childcare, parenting and family advocacy, education consulting, and Gen Z facilitator certification from Growing Leaders from Atlanta, USA. His track record on advocacy on parenting can be traced across sectors, following the need to consolidate diverse projects, efforts, and intervention within the parenting space. He's a consultant, he's a speaker, he's a trainer, he's a parenting coach, and also he's an experienced counselor. His work with several families and youth has earned him a respectable place within the education and the society at large. He is the author of the fast growing inspired work tool for fathers to raise real men in today's world. That book is called Daddy, Where Are You? And then he authored a follow-up to that book called Mommy, No Excuses, a book that focuses on mothers to know and have the strategies in complementing and competing with their husbands in parenting and marriage, and the ways for them to stay full and free. He's a founder of the lead researcher of a company called Parent Mark School of Parenting. He also runs a parenting academy like us. So we have Akinrope Akinola here in the studio. But let me tell you a bit about this man right here in the studio. Mr. Akinrope, can you hear us? Can you hear us, sir? Can you hear us in the studio? Okay, so I want to believe that probably Mr. Akinrope is having issues with his network. All right, but let me tell you a bit, about Mr. Akinrope, before he gets back. I met Mr. Akinrope online, and we just connected, and somehow he lives in Lagos, Nigeria. I live in Abuja myself, I know we did a lot of work together. But you know the interesting thing, last year was actually when we connected, and last year at the TIP annual conference, this is the 3rd edition. So we're not doing COVID conference. No, this is not a COVID thing. We've been here for 3 years, running this conference online back to back, and we're not stopping. All right. So Mr. Akinrope was the person who opened the TIP conference last year with the topic, Daddy, where are you? That topic made, in fact, it went viral. It was an amazing session. And fast after that, I've been privileged to speak in his sessions. He's spoken in a lot of the things that TIP Academy has done in the past and even in the future to come. So Mr. Akinrope is going to be sharing with us today how to raise boys who matter. That's the topic. How to raise boys who matter. All right. So we have Mr. Akinrope. I don't know if we still have Mr. Akinrope in the studio, but I'm thinking that Mr. Akinrope, I don't know if you can still hear me. All right. So we're trying to still connect with him while we make sure that he gets on. Here. All right. Hello, sir. If you can hear me, please let's. Oh, okay. He said he can hear me clearly. I don't know why your camera is frozen though, but it looks as if your camera is frozen and you're in a place, and we can't just see. We can only share. He will see a frozen camera. All right. Awesome. Awesome. He says he can hear me, and he says he can see me. Oh yeah. So this is not a COVID conference, and again, we're bringing you people who have shared through their process. Mr. Akinrope also have children that he has parented for years, teenagers. So, welcome, Mr. Akinrope. I call him, he's one of my bosses. He's one of my bosses in this space. And I'm so honored and glad to have Mr. Akinrope. Many of the time, I call him and he answers at a snap of a finger. That is not ordinary, trust me. All right. I appreciate you, sir. I honor you, and I'm going to be leaving the studio for you to share with us. My note is ready. Thank you for being at the Intentional Parent Conference again for the 2nd time. Thank you for doing this with us. We appreciate you, sir. Okay, sir, your camera is upside down. We can see you upside down, so you need to turn it so that we can see you properly. Your camera is upside down, sir. Okay, yes. I guess that your camera is now live. Can you hear me, sir? Please, you can go on, sir. You can go on, sir. Hello, Mr. Akinrope, can you hear me? Hello, Mr. Akinrope, can you hear me? All right, so while we wait for Mr. Akinrope to sort out that technical issue, let us, we can put some, questions from just the session that have just ended, so that when Mr. Akinrope is about rounding up on this session, he will be able to, share with us. All right, he will be able to share with us. I'm guessing that Mr. Akinrope is trying to sort out his technical issues and then come back right here with us. And I'm thinking that he's right here, and that we can also see him. All right, sir, can you hear me? Can you hear me, sir? If you can hear me, sir, please, you have the floor. All right, I don't think Mr. Akinrope can still hear me. I don't think Mr. Akinrope can hear me yet. While we wait for that, please let your comments get into the system while we are here. If you can hear Mr. Akinrope, please in the comment section, let's know if you can hear him. Hello, Mr. Akinrope. you hear me? Please, I sent in a chat. Make sure, just look through your private chat and see if you can hear me or you can see me. Let's know what's wrong, sir. Hello, Mr. Akinrope, can you hear me? Mr. Akinrope can hear me, but I can't hear anything he's saying. I don't know who else can hear him. Please, can you speak, sir, so that we see if we can hear you? There's probably something wrong with your audio, sir. Look through if you're not connected with your audio. Look through if you're connected with your audio, sir. We can't hear you. We can't hear anything. Please look through if you're connected with your audio, sir. Look through. Your audio is not connected, sir. No one can hear you, sir. Not even the audience. Nobody can hear you. Your audio is probably not connected. Please check that, sir. So sorry about that. While we're waiting to fix that for Mr. Akinrope to come back right in, and then we continue. We still cannot hear you. Your audio is not connected. Your mic is not connected. From the studio, we can see that your mic is not connected. Please connect your mic so that we can hear you, sir.
Now?
Yes, we can hear you now, sir. We can hear you now. We can hear you.
Okay, now because I am using my phone direct now.
So you can go ahead, sir. You have the floor. I'm going to leave the studio, please.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everybody on this meeting today. It's my pleasure to be here. So it's my pleasure to be here today. My name is Akinrope Akinola, and I help parents to increase the quality of parenting and the methodology of nurturing African children as well as families into greatness, whilst maximizing their potential. So it's a pleasure for me to be here today. When this thing was given to me, the assignment was given to me about a few weeks ago, the topic, I wasn't really so keen, as in, trying to, go on researching about, go on researches about the issues around, around the boy child, because almost every day life, all these things, we see the way a particular boy child, we see the way they behave around, we see young adults, the way they behave, we see youth, we see young men in marriages, the way they behave, even we see adults in the way we behave as well. So when this topic came up, raising a boy child that matters, I'm so happy that this is the best time to discuss this issue. There is no other better time than now. Now, a few weeks ago, or precisely last month, I was in another conference like this where I was meant to discuss about father's role and the way we raise our kids. And I did submit back
Sorry,
then.
boss. There's a bit of a sound in your background. You might want to check that, sir. There's a bit of a noise in your background. Movement noise. Fan something. You might want to check that. Yes, sir. You want to check that. There's a bit of a noise. Awesome.
How about this now? Is it okay now?
This is good. This is
okay
good.
now?
Yes.
It's good.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So when this topic was given to me, I was happy that we don't need so much, research to know what we're going to talk about. It's something we're used to in our everyday life on the field. When we visit places, we see how challenging, our young men has been in marriage, how difficult they've been unable to handle their homes, the challenges they face in raising their own kids as well, the challenges they face in owning their own, in taking care of the home fronts. So, like I was saying the other time, when I took part in another conference, sometimes last month, about the role of a father in the home, I did submit back then almost the same thing I said. There's going to be a part of my preliminary before I go into the full assignment I have for tonight. It's so amazingly crazy here in this part of the world that when you visit some prison yards, you have the percentage of about 8-2. When you have like 10 inmates in a cell, there is likelihood that you would see 8 young adults, 8 teenagers that are boys, and you have 2. Why do we have things like this? Do things like this have to go on unchecked? Are we not going to say something in a way to bring this to a barest minimum? If it's possible, we even evacuate the prison cell, we evacuate the inmates from that place. But taking a critical look at the statistics we have, because I was part of a movement, I'm still part of the movement, just that I've not been able to go out with them the last 2 years. The last 2 years that I went with them, Prison Fellowship of Nigeria, the last 2 years that I followed them to that place, that was about 2 years ago. And it was discovered that what we saw was very, very damning. Almost all over Nigeria, you see young boys, teenagers, you see young adults that are in this mess. Why were they? How did they get themselves into this mess? Where were their fathers? So one day, about 3 weeks ago, I saw one of the guys that we met in that place sometimes ago. This guy, I had to sit this guy down, and he told me critically that it's not because his own parents or his dad were not really there for him. They were there for him, but a lot of things were not just, going the way it should go in his house. Talk of studies, his mom was there, his dad was there, but, a lot of things were not just, in place. I just look at that and I see how many of our teenagers that are boys, how many of them are still in this critical challenge? How many of them are in this area? Because when you talk to a few of them, they will tell you it's not because their parents are not there. The parents are there. So the issue now is, what then is the problem? If the parents are there, then again, when I go to schools, I see that girls are always on the increase, on the rise, on the academic charts. When you look at, when you take about like 10 schools, whether in Lagos State, Abuja, just take for instance, just take a wide guess, go to schools. When we go to schools and we look at all these things, we will always see there that boys are just going down low by the day. And the same thing is being reproduced in many homes today. That means the homes that have produced men in the last 20 years, we've not really seen any remarkable change. We've not really witnessed any remarkable or positive changes in the way boys turn out from those homes. So that is why when this topic came up now, the topic came up and the topic is raising a boy child that matters. When I look at that, I just discovered that the only thing that we can do to raise a boy child that matters is to infuse life into every boy child that ever graced the surface of the earth. To infuse in them life. What I mean by life, I mean L-I-F-E. L-I-F-E. So, and I've broken that life into 4 different parts, behavioral steps. L stands for literacy. I stand for interesting stories and experiences. Excuse me. F stands for foundation of faith. E stands for exposure to hard work. Exposure to hard work. So let me start from letter L. I'm starting from letter L now. Why do we need boy child to have the literacy skill? Why do we need them? When we know the reason why we need them, or rather, when we want to know the reason why we need them, we will look again into what has the low literacy achievement in boy child, how has it impacted their life or our life in time past? Then how is it impacting in the present life of a typical boy child, especially in Africa? Now, giving the boy child the knowledge of literacy will foster in them the value of love, the value of kindness, the value of integrity, the value of dignity, and the value of compassion. Why is this so? Okay, now, before this COVID came up, I noticed this terrain, I noticed it, this unpalatable terrain. I noticed this unpalatable terrain last year, and I began to move around some schools here in Lagos State. I looked at the graduating list, and I look at the prices, I look at the awards, and I discovered that when you see English language, when you see the English literature, you discover that girl child always has in all these awards. Literacy in boy child has become a zero thing. That is why it is not surprising this year when we're celebrating Father's Day, we discovered that almost everybody that celebrated Father's Day, almost all the speakers, almost all the facilitators, almost everybody around the boy child or around the practice and the practice of fatherhood, those stuff, speakers, people that are, going for meetings, going for, engagement around that period. They all focused on possibility or how can we help fathers to read to their sons. So all over the world, we could see that boy child has been on the back foot. Boy child as always coming very, very low in literacy because there are no fathers there to champion the cause of them, making them to read as expected. So, and when there is relatively low literacy attainment, supposing, imagine now in a 4-year-old boy, that will predict a high aggressive behavior when he gets to age 7. Let me break it down. How is this possible? Perhaps let me say it again. When we have relatively low literacy attainment in a 4-year-old boy, it will predict a high aggressive behavior. When that boy gets to like age 7 or 8, how is this so? How did I come into this? When we introduce them to reading early, they are exposed to different culture, they are exposed to different tradition, they are exposed to different perspectives, they are exposed to different wisdom, away from what they were known for in the house. When a boy child picks a book, when a father reads a book with a boy child, many decisions are there, many perspectives he has seen, experiences he has seen, many environments he has witnessed from that area. By the time that child begins to grow up, his emotion will have been put in check. I hope everybody is following. The boy child emotion will have been put in check if that child is opened, is introduced to reading early, to reading culture early in his life. Literacy achievement help them in verbal skill. Many of us, when we were growing up, a lot of things we didn't know how to handle. We didn't know how to engage in verbal skill with opposite sex. Ever wondered why in this life of today we get to see boy child growing up with many vices, rape, impatience, anger, bullying, name them. You'll always see a boy child around that place. It is nothing to say, like they always say in African parlance, that boys will always be boys. When they see a boy child, that is so, brave, so agile, so strong, he can say anything. They say that, oh my God, he is no wonder he's a boy. Boy will always be boy. Boys will always be boys. It is not true. No research has confirmed that boys will always be boys. Boys won't always be boys. It is what you raise a boy child with that he begins to exhibit outside. So if you raise a boy child with low literacy skill, the same low literacy skill will have an adverse effect in the life of a boy child. That's where you see a boy child misbehaving anywhere they go. So back to what I was saying, because of low literacy skill that we had back in the days, at the same time, we lacked verbal skill. When we engage opposite sex, the only thing that came to our mind as teenagers, the only things that comes to our head as teenagers is just to have sex with that girl, because there was no verbal skill there. We didn't have verbal skill to engage opposite sex. We didn't have verbal skill to engage our friends, to engage people around us. So when the literacy skill is so high, the verbal skill too will be so high, meaning that every boy child around will see opposite sex not as an instrument of sexual harassment, not as an even instrument of sexual pleasure, but as an instrument of someone to engage in mind empowerment conversation with. So that is what high skill in literacy will do to a boy child, meaning that they need this because as technology as well goes up in boys, empathy goes down. What we see many of the boy child what we see them do now, almost every boy child as well and girl child. What we see, they are screenagers. That's one of my mentors. That's why he called them screenagers, because they are made, screen. When they're not watching TV, they're clutching with their phones. So, and you see the rate at which boy child goes for games, computer games. They go for PS4. PS5 is on the way. So as those things increase, the same way empathy in them goes down. That is why when you see most of our young youth, most of the young adults, when we see them these days, we see them to the extent that they could not hold their own house. They couldn't hold their homes together. They are brilliant. There is no doubt about that. They end well in their respective offices. They end where they have everything. But when it comes to emotional strength, to hold their wives, to hold the kids, that thing is not just there. You can't really blame them, because the technology is advancing. The same way technology is advancing in them, the same way empathy goes down. But the knowledge of literacy will boost up the empathy level. So that letter L stands for literacy. Every boy child must be equipped with the knowledge of literacy, as against what we see now. What we see now in most schools here in Nigeria, girl child is taking upper hand in literacy. So the next one is I. Letter I stand for interesting stories and experiences. How many of us fathers have time to sit our boy child down to run them through the struggles we've gone through in life, run them through the failures we've gone through in life, run them through the grind we've engaged in our life? Are we just all about the glitz and the glamour of life alone? The boy child that we have today are not so much interested in the glitz and the glamour of our life. There is no amount of wealth we want to throw around a boy child. There is no amount of influences we want to throw around the boy child that he has not seen or witnessed on the screen. Are we together? There is no wealth, no car can any father has now that will that will look so much interesting, so much compelling of an experience to a boy child. They don't need that. What a typical boy child needs is that, please share a story with me of challenges you had in the past. Share me a story of your past failures. Dad, how did you handle the first heartbroken you experienced in life? Dad, how did you handle when you were jilted? Dad, when you had F9 parallel? I mean, back in the days now, if any, to many of us that, that had our education, in secondary school in early 80s and late 80s, there was something we called F9 parallel. That was when you scored below 39, below 40 in your WAEC, your WASC, or SSC. So, Dad, how did you ever experience any major failure in your life? Those are the stories, interesting stories the boy child is expecting from us fathers, from us mothers. Excuse me. So, when they hear stories like that, they hear stories that are peculiar to Africans. They hear stories that are peculiar to their forefathers. We are not just telling them the stories about the Western culture. We are not opening, they know all those ones. A lot of, stories, are Western stories that my kids know, that my boy child knows. A lot of them Many, he will even tell me, I don't even know anything about them. So it is, those things are not so interesting to them any longer. Those things that are not just new experiences, they know them more than us. But by the time we begin to raise them in the consciousness of our own ways, it's not enough, for fathers, for African fathers to begin to tell them, this is how we raise our children. And in Africa, we do this, we do that, we beat them. When we tell our kids to shut up, they shut up. It's not enough to begin to, to be shouting on them in that way. What they really need is those rich African stories. How did you go about these challenges? How did you overcome them? By the time we make them to understand all this, those things will serve, as a therapy for them as they grow up as well. Because all these kids, by the time a boy child comes out of us, they will face some challenges. And I was listening to a speaker sometimes ago, that last week, and he said, a Gen Z, when they say they want to do something, they mean it. Unless they've not said it. Once they say that thing, that I'm going to do this, they mean it and they will do it. And that's why you see mostly now in our teen boys, you see some of them committing suicide. Because no father, no adult, no mother has been able to give them interesting stories that are peculiar to African culture. So the next letter there is letter F. Letter F stands for foundation of faith. Foundation of faith. There is no way that nobody on the surface of this earth does not believe in a supreme being. Every one of us believes in a supreme being. Whether you are a Muslim, whether you are a Christian, you are a Hindu, or any traditional belief, any spectrum of traditional belief or faith you belong, we always believe in a supreme being. So when you believe in that supreme being, the same measure from the supreme being has been deposited on a boy child. The same measure of supreme being, the same measure of supernatural has been deposited on a boy child, because that boy child will grow up to become a man of the house, will grow up to become a husband, will grow up to become a father, will grow up to become a provider, will grow up to become a protector, will grow up to become a pointer. So when you look at the foundation of faith, you can't but infuse the life of a boy child that matters, the foundation of faith. Because without the spiritual power, any boy child is zero. I said that again. Without the spirituality and the spiritual attainment, the high spiritual attainment on the part of a boy child, that boy child will not matter. When the spiritual empowerment is not there, then look at what I wrote here. I wrote here that to raise a boy child that matters, there is a spiritual dimension for it. There is a level of spiritual resilience that requires spiritual resilience that equips and empowers the boy child for daunting challenges ahead of him. A boy child must be able to know what it looks like to hear the voice of God. The voice of God he believes. The voice of God they believe in their homes. A boy child must be able to understand what faith is, must be able to understand how to communicate with God as shown by the head of the house, of the family. So we are not that interested in raising a macho boy. We are not that interested in raising, a handsome boy. Do you understand? We are not all that interested in raising, a wealthy boy, a rich boy, as long or as much as we care for all these things. They are just byproducts of foundation of strong faith in a boy child. Because by the time you think that, a boy child has the money, grows up to become a man, has the money, has everything going on in life, is wealthy, is brilliant, is gotten everything, in his offices, without the spirituality, that boy child, that man is zero. And when I say spirituality, I don't really mean maybe you must be a Muslim or you must be a Christian, because this is an open conference. It's not religious based. It's an open conference. So for every man that has stood the test of time in this life, there is a level of spirituality attainment that man has grown up to be. There is a level of spirituality attainment that a boy child must grow with. For that child,
Okay, apologies. I guess speaker had network issues, I guess, because of that call, but I'm sure he's going to be back here in a while. And we're beginning to actually round up because speaker has just 15 minutes to go, and he's back right in the studio to continue this conversation.
I am sorry. The network has been fluctuating so far. Okay, now back in what I was discussing about, I was talking about the foundation of, raising a boy child with the foundation of faith. And when I mean by foundation of faith, doesn't really mean, maybe being a Christian alone. This is an open conference. I remember I did say that it could be a Muslim, a Christian, a Hindu, but for every boy child that has grown up to become a viable man, a successful man in life, there is a level of spiritual attainment that child has grown up with right from childhood. So if we're talking of raising a boy child that matters in this dispensation, in this Gen Z, or in any part of the world, we can't neglect the foundation of faith in the life of our boy child. And when we talk about the foundation of faith, it must be a model that is being practiced by the father of the house or by the father figure in the house. So for every family that has a boy child in their homes, it is the responsibility of the father in the house or the father figure in that house to show the path of the foundation of faith to the boy child. So when we talk about the foundation of faith, for the boy child, without really, without sounding prejudice to the girl child, that's what I tell people anywhere I go. Meaning that we're talking about the foundation of God now. We are talking about the structure of God. For every home, the deposit of the spiritual leadership of that house is vested and is rested on the boy of the house, because that boy will grow up to become a man. To become a man, when he becomes a man, he becomes a father, he becomes a husband, he becomes a provider, he becomes a protector, and he becomes a pointer to the way of the Lord to the kids under him. So it is our responsibility to give the boy child the foundation of faith. We can't underestimate, we can't underrate the foundation of faith in the way we want to raise a boy child that matters. So the next letter there is letter E, which is actually the last letter in the life we want to infuse in the life of our boy child. Okay, now that E stands for exposure. The E stands for exposure. What are we exposing the boy child to? We must expose the boy child to hard work. We must expose the boy child to hard work. Why am I talking about this? I have a boy and I have a girl, and I discover because of the advent of technology, because they have all these things at their beck. Almost everything they do, almost all of them, they have it on the screen. They have it at their palm. There was a time I was doing something on my phone, and my boy just said something, "Daddy, you are not so smart with your smartphone. I think it's better you just go for a lower phone, a lower Keda phone." Why did he say that? Because what I could have done for like 15 minutes, he saw a way out. He saw an app that could do that in less than 4-5 minutes. So if care is not taken, they will see almost everything to be done via technology. And I always tell people, in so much we are in a technology age, we are in a tech age. We want the boy child, we want all the children that we have, we want them to be tech savvy. In so much we want them, we can still, displace the place of manual and physical hard work in their life. Why do we need this? Because we want a boy child that matters to grow, to be responsible in life. We want them to be independent. We want them to be industrious, and we want them to be emotionally strong. What are those hard works that we're talking about? Many of us know that machine can do almost everything in the house. We have some people, they can get machine to sweep. I saw it on a video sometimes ago, machine to wash plates, to do stuff, all those things there. You see, without limiting the part of physical hard work, manual hard work in this, these are the things we must really introduce to our kids. You take them, the boy child, you take them out. It is not all the time you take the car to the car wash to go and wash. It's not all the time you call the vulcanizer home to come and do the tire. You yourself, you and the boy child that you have, you can do all these things together. By the time we expose them to many things like this, they will grow up to know that in life, everything their parents or everything their fathers achieved, they achieved them by dint of hard work. Even in a place where technology can take the place of manual work, it is still not out of place if we try to still introduce this manual hard work to them. So when we look at the model life to be infused in the life of the boy child, we will see the issue of, we want a boy child, that will be able to take care of the wife. We want a boy child that will be able to take care, of the kid. We want a boy child that will grow up to be responsible leaders in the world. We want the boy child that will grow up to be responsible, pastors, responsible imams, responsible leaders of industry in their life. In so much, we want every one of this. I look in these areas. I discovered that the best gift we can give a boy child is the gift of life, the knowledge of literacy attainment. Every boy child must grow up with literacy knowledge. They must be able to have read wide. They must be able to have read wide. When any man reads wide, because they always say that when we read, we're exposed to another country, we're exposed to another culture, we're exposed to another wisdom, we're exposed to another environment entirely, environment that is different from us. So when a boy child is exposed to another environment that is different from his through the knowledge of literacy, such boy child will grow up to know how to handle a wife when he finally marries, will grow up not to become bully, even as a teenager, not to become bully, even as a business owner, not to grow up to become a rapist, because he knows he's grown up with verbal skill. And I did say inability for us to grow with verbal skill is one of those things that is responsible to us, taking up vices, because we don't know how to engage opposite sex. We see opposite sex as an instrument of harassment, opposite sex as an instrument of sex, opposite sex as an instrument to be bullied. We grew up like that because we lacked literacy skill. We lacked verbal skill. But when we engage them, we read along with them, all these things, they will grab it. They will grasp the wisdom behind the literacy. And I did say, go to many schools. Go to many schools in Lagos, go to many schools in Abuja, go to many schools in the East, go to many schools in the North. You see girls always winning the prizes when it comes to English language, when it comes to communication, when it gets to literacy, English literature. That is the reason why girls are really taking up, and that's why you see them, are so vocal. You see them engaging. Boys will not have all those things because nobody teaches them, and nobody is still teaching them the art of literacy. Nobody is encouraging them to read. We need to encourage them to read, to have the literacy knowledge. Then the second one is interesting stories. We have our rich African culture. We have our rich African stories. Many fathers in the house now, they must be able to tell their boy child how they were able to navigate through the challenges of life. Those are interesting and compelling stories every boy child should grow with. Then the third one, F, stands for foundation of faith. There is no boy child that wants to matter in life that will neglect, that the parent or the father would neglect the foundation of faith for that child to grow up with. We can't possibly neglect that. Whether you're a Christian, whether you're a Muslim, you're a Hindu, you're traditionalist, for every man to succeed in life, there is a spiritual undertone. So we must be able to raise our boy child in the foundation of faith. And the last one, which is exposure. In so much, I believe in technology, I believe in tech savvy, I believe that technology has taken over. We can't possibly displace or disdain the place of manual and physical hard work in the way we raise our boy child. So thank you, Mrs. Wendy Ologe.
Thank you so much, Mr. Akinrope. Thank you for delivering that. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, we might not be able to take questions. We've run out completely of time, and we have Irene Bangwell already in the studio waiting to share with us on raising girls who dominate. We are incorporating every aspect of parenting in the TRP annual conference. Mr. Akinrope shared with us on raising boys who matter. So now we're also saying that there are also girls, and we're not going to leave them behind. So we are going to be talking about, in a few minutes, raising girls who dominate. But we have one question, sir. That one question, please help us respond in 1 minute, sir. We don't have more than 1 minute. Please, just 1 minute, sir. Let me find it. I think the person was talking about spiritual level. Okay, awesome. That's it right there. 1 minute, sir. Thank you. Can you see that, sir? Okay, unfortunately, we lost Mr. Akinrope, and I'm not sure we're going to be able to have him back right here in the studio, and we're going to be concluding this session. Thank you for being here with us again, and this is TIP Annual Conference, streaming live for 2020. This is us. We are right on the 5th day. We have gone down with first day had 4 coaches, second day had 4 coaches, third day had 4 coaches, and 5th day we also are having 4 coaches. We've had 3 coaches today, and we are living right here with the last coach, where we're going to be coming online to share with us. The last coach will be logging in at exactly 8 p.m. Please join us while we share, and we are ending this session now to log on with the next session so that we can go and learn how to raise girls who dominate. And I'm going to bring Mr. Akinrope to say his last words so that we can round up this session. Oh, okay. All right. He's gone out again. Thank you so much, everybody. Log on again to join us right now to have Irene Bangwell to teach us on how to raise girls who dominate. Thank you.